Good afternoon. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the East Bay Regional Park District. Sorry. This is May 19th, 2020, and we're beginning the meeting at 1:01. Board members, I see that you are all present. May I please ask the clerk to call the roll?
Yes, Madam President. Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Director Wasby.
Here.
Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Eccles.
Here.
Director Lane.
Here.
And Director Coffey.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Everyone is present. It is time for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask Director Eccles to lead today's Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America. And to the republic.
Republic for which it stands,
And one nation.
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
someday.
Someday.
Thank you very much, Director Eccles. So today's regular meeting is held in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order, allowing for board members to participate remotely. We're also providing live audio and video streaming today and have provided the public the opportunity to submit written comments and call in for public comments for any item in the staff report or an item on the staff report to call in and leave a voice message. So we have 3 ways for public comments today. I also want to add that this meeting is streaming live via Zoom. So we do have participants who are watching us in video and audio today and will be able to comment live. Madam Clerk, would you like to make any other comments with regard to how we are taking public comments today?
Yes, Madam President. We actually gave the public the opportunity to submit their comments in 3 different ways: via email to yburial@ebparks.org, via voicemail. The number was 510-544-2016, and via live comment, and by submitting an email. We currently do have, it looks like, about 2 people on the line that are members of the public. The rest have their emails.
All right. Should we take a motion to approve the agenda first before we go to public comments?
Yes.
All right. I always get those 2 mixed up myself. So
You did it. This time you did it right.
I did it right this time. So thank you, everybody. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Director Wieskamp, seconded by
Second.
Dario. So let's call the roll on the adoption of the agenda. Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Director Lane.
Here. Aye. Aye.
Director Coffey.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Wasby.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett. Aye. Unanimous adoption of our agenda. And thank you again, Madam Clerk. We do have public comments. We have 10 public comments submitted via email, but of course today, since we are Zooming live, we may have some people who are live who wish to make comments. And if we do have people present who are making comments, I know you will queue them up. And also, I'd just like to make this statement: if people are making their comments live and they may have also sent in a written statement, we will take their comments live as opposed to having double comments. And obviously the live comments are very preferable. So whenever you are ready for our first public comment, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Madam President. I'm going to call Carrie. Carrie, I'm unmuting you. And
Hi, this is Carrie.
okay.
Thank you very much, Carrie. And we have 3 minutes for each comment. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to my comment. I live in the city of Alameda, and the Alameda Beach is over the purview of East Bay Regional Park District. And the governor has issued some orders that the beach is to be used for exercise. And for the last 2 months, especially on the weekends, I work during the week. There are large groups of people that go and park in the shopping center and congregate on the beach. They're under umbrellas, they're laying down in chairs. They're not practicing social distancing. A lot of them are not wearing masks. And it's very concerning to me as a resident of Alameda who lives close to the beach. And I've made a few complaints and nothing has happened. And I would very much appreciate it if the East Bay Regional Park District would enforce the rules that the governor has implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for your comments. And I would ask staff, I believe we have heard from Carrie by mail as well. I would ask staff to be in touch with her and address the questions that she has raised today. So we will have complete understanding of the rules and how we are enforcing. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next speaker is Kelly Abreu. Kelly, I'm unmuting you.
Hello.
Hello, Kelly.
Hi. The comment is that we appreciate the hard work of district staff at Mission Peak since 1978. I'm with Mission Peak Conservancy, by the way. The lease expiration could leave the city in a tough spot this July without an operating agreement. The city is looking for a month-to-month extension, but this sounds like an unrealistic stopgap during which the district should be compensated fully for its staffing costs. The Park District hires and trains staff for the long term. It does not do temporary contracting, doesn't do microtasks or freelance labor. A Band-Aid won't provide stability. When permit parking was imposed in 2016, it was billed as a temporary interim solution. The permits expire this July. They targeted visitors and emptied parking on Stanford Avenue and Wybell Drive. Park Police handed out 60% of the 4,000 parking tickets on city streets, while the city pocketed 100% of the fines. However, when the contract ends this July, the gravy train of free enforcement for the city will end. The city has a budget shortfall, and it has frozen hiring. Regardless, it wants to hire 3 additional parking officers and restrict parking citywide. By their accounting, the enforcement expenses won't go up. The main entrance at Mission Peak was closed last month when the city made fist-pounding demands about social distancing. The trails remain closed today. The relationship between the city and the district has been damaged. The district partners with cities for the long term to serve the residents of the region. We urge the board of directors to support district staff as they negotiate another 25-year extension, provided that the lease extension would benefit the entire region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for your comments. And I just want to make an additional brief comment. We also received a letter from the Mission Peak Conservancy signed by William Y. Riggi, co-founder. And the comments that you have just put into the record are, I think they might be some quotes from that letter. So will this suffice as your public comments, or would you still like us to read the letter? Some of the statements are the same.
No, this will suffice. This is an overview, a summary.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Kelly. Just wanted to make sure we weren't repeating the same thing. Appreciate your comments today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dave Fielder. I'm going to start your video, sir.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share with you my concern about the ongoing total closure of Point Isabel Regional Shoreline. I've submitted a written document regarding this presentation, but rather than reading it, I'll try to just add some additional context and emphases. First, I'm sensitive to the need to distinguish policy from operations. As the executive director for the Medical Research Institute in San Francisco, I operated at the interface between my board and research operations. That experience taught me the importance of taking a pragmatic approach to problems. Another valuable lesson involved the importance of devising acceptable ways around complex problems, usually involving concern for the interests of all parties and compromise. Today, the public's access to Point Isabel Regional Shoreline appears caught in a catch-22. Communications with regional health officials indicate that park administrators have the freedom to work within their health order constraints to find creative ways to ensure that the public has access to recreation, also as mandated by those orders, while ensuring safe practices. Their dog park guidance is broad brushed, purposefully so. And yet that generic dog park language remains a stated constraint to reopening Point Isabel. Notably, there are different approaches to the health order in the East Bay. Both Berkeley and Albany have shuttered their enclosed dog-specific parks, Ohlone in Berkeley and Veterans Memorial in Albany. Conversely, both cities have kept their general public use parks open, specifically Cesar Chavez Park in Berkeley and the Albany Bulb. Those municipalities have found effective ways to comply with the health order's generic language regarding dog parks while still meeting their respective health officers' expectations, thus serving a broad variety of public recreational needs. The latest iteration of the regional health order, issued just yesterday, contains the same generic dog park language, while opening up public access in many other areas. Unfortunately, I don't foresee the dog park language being removed, perhaps until a COVID vaccine becomes available. What I fear is that Point Isabel Regional Shoreline will remain shuttered until that vaccine development occurs, unless an approach is devised that recognizes the clear distinction between enclosed dog parks and general use parks where dog walking may be permitted. I believe that most dog owners would be amenable to mitigating measures that would permit Point Isabel to be reopened in some safe manner, particularly if crowding is the main concern. Please take a proactive approach to alleviating this catch-22 situation. Point Isabel user groups and your general shoreline-loving public are ready to assist in ensuring a successful reopening. Let's work together to accomplish that. Thank you for your consideration and for your ongoing commitment to public park access and recreation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Fielder. We appreciate your comments. Thank you for joining us.
And Madam President, I'm unable to see if there's anybody else that would be interested in publicly commenting. If you could unmute yourself, that would be great. I recognize everybody here.
Is there anybody else out there who is on Zoom who wishes to speak to us?
No, Mr. Fielder, I'm going to stop your video, sir. Thank you.
So can you see the videos of those who may be watching on Zoom that are the public, Madam Clerk?
No, there were only 3 speakers.
That came in. Okay, all right.
And so everyone else, I'm asking, I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. So
Not seeing- I don't see anyone else either, at least what I
Right.
have to do. So hopefully we have gotten everybody. If we haven't gotten you, it's because you're not showing up on our Zoom feed. So we apologize if you're not in the Zoom feed, but please send us letters if you still have additional comments. We do have some written public comments, Madam Clerk, and I will go ahead and start by reading a letter that we received from the Sierra Club. And then I do know that we already received our comments from the Mission Peak Conservancy. And I believe we might have received written comments from Mr. Fielder as well. So we will not be reading those because we have heard from them. So
yes, Madam President, just to let you know that Mr. Fielder has sent 2 different documents. So we do have a comprehensive list of public comments from him.
Okay, very good. Thank you so very much. All right, please bear with me as I read very small print. This is a letter from the Sierra Club, and I will not read the prefatory comments, basically just stating that they hope that we would read this into the record. It is addressed to the board. The Sierra Club sent a letter to the board on April 20th, 2020, regarding the need for the park district to make meetings available on Zoom, to provide Zoom ability for people to comment on matters before the board, and to provide all comments available to the public via an archive or in a packet for the subsequent meeting so that the public can read what others sent in. As of the date of this letter, no director or any staff has responded to the Sierra Club. Well, I have had comments with Mr. Wairiki, so in any event. So far, the Park District has not been able to do any of these 3 simple requests. Virtually all other public agencies in the Bay Area are Zoomed with all participants in Zoom for a public meeting. Many agencies allow for the public to comment via Zoom as if they were physically present at the meeting. Yet the board meeting for May 19th was not available, let's see. Board meeting for May 19th, 2020 has no available for its board meetings. I guess that means availability for its board meetings. Nor can the public comment via Zoom. Nor is there any location where the public can review emailed and transcribed comments from the public reportedly read and reviewed by all board members. The board must agendize these matters so it can explain to the public why it has not and still cannot make these changes happen, and also to inform the public as to when they will be available or why the Park District will not or cannot do so. Signed, sincerely yours, Norman LaForce, East Bay Public Lands Committee of the Sierra Club. So those are the comments. I know that Mr. LaForce will be receiving a response to this letter. We make sure that one is prepared. And I would just note that today is our first live Zoom meeting, so you can attend live Zoom meetings and comment live now with the East Bay Regional Park District. Thank you, Mr. LaForce, for your comments. Madam Clerk, I think you have a few more letters.
Yes, Madam President. The first one is from Patricia Aguilera, and it reads, I am so appreciative of the East Bay Regional Park District and all of the staff. I have walked the trails for over 25 years, and those trails have gotten me through some very challenging times. I am a true lover and supporter of the parks. During the current times, one of the things that makes me most happy are the number of folks being newly introduced to the parks in the district. These new hikers are doing their best to stay 6 feet away and to wear masks. As the days go on, I see more and more compliance. I wish I could say the same for the bikers that use the trails. I have seen the same group of over 8 bikers use single track trails, go very fast and not wearing masks. I cannot move 6 feet away when they are on single track trails. I am also exposed to 8 people breathing heavily. I have written to the district several times about this concern. I try to avoid all the track trails as I cannot be assured, the single track trails, as I cannot be assured that they will be safe with the number of bikers speeding along. I have tried to talk to the bikers about my concerns, but they are riding too fast. I would like to see the single tracks not available to bikers during this time because of the health risks it poses to all of us on the trails. This has always been a problem on the single track trails, but for the most part, we can ignore this behavior, but now it is a serious health risk for us as hikers. Please take my recommendation seriously, Patricia. And I'm gonna turn my video on. Okay, the next person is, I have David Fielder, he's already spoken, and Mark Larette. Mark says, Mrs. Knight, I am a Contra Costa County resident from Moraga, California, and I'm writing to request that Point Isabel Dog Park be reopened to the public. I like to windsurf there, and the mandatory closure of dog parks in the existing regional health order does not require a ban on all public use of Point Isabel regional parks, nor even of appropriate dog access. That is a decision that is left up to and controlled by the board, East Bay Regional Park District Board and management. I believe you have the duty to revisit that decision, as well as the means to effect a controlled and successful reopening of Point Isabel Regional Park to the public. He says your constituents deserve better. The next one is from Andrew Lojo or Loho. I apologize if I mispronounced that. And he actually attached a written document. And he says the actions of East Bay Regional Park District The actions the district has implemented to minimize the spread of COVID-19 are appreciated. Closing bathrooms, drinking fountains, pools, and visitor centers was clearly necessary and has helped keep the number of cases under control. Only 11 people were hospitalized in Contra Costa County with COVID-19 as of May 15. This and other recent positive health department data presents East Bay Regional Park District an opportunity to make even more significant improvements in our ability to survive this pandemic. The draconian closure of open spaces, however, increases crowding and stress. The district acknowledges how critical open space is to human health during a time like this. Closing parks, however, violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, drives people toward other riskier behavior, like walking in the street, and creates a social equity problem. And he gives a footnote to that. The abundance of data that the benefits of being outdoors significantly outweigh the tiny risks of catching the virus there, even on an individual level. Considering that less than 0.12% of our community has tested positive, the benefits of reopening them far outweighs the risk of opening the parks again. Like many people, I have dogs that must run off leash every day. I'm going to edit this. Making all areas of all parks on leash only is unnecessary. Point Isabel is a huge, windy park. There is no reason it should remain closed. Please reopen our open spaces, picnic areas, dog parks, and rescind the on leash everywhere rule. Austin McInerney. It reads, on behalf of the members of the Bicycle Trails Council, I am writing to express our sincere appreciation for the Park District's hard work during the pandemic to ensure that East Bay residents have the ability to legally get outside on well-maintained trails within the East Bay Regional Park network of properties. I am also writing to introduce myself as the recently elected advocacy director of the BTCEB, and I look forward to collaborating with the board of directors. Park district staff and concerned and reasonable members of the public to ensure that the needs of the growing and diverse population of responsible cyclists are considered as projects are planned and implemented. As anyone who has visited one of the district's parks over the past 2 months has seen, the trails are busier than ever, and it serves us all if we can work together to develop ways to disperse the increased number of park visitors, to ensure adequate social distancing, and decrease the chance of unfortunate trail conflicts. The cycling community stands ready to constructively collaborate, and we all look forward to more frequent exchanges. Please let me know how best I can be of service. Samita Shankar, dear Mr. Doyle, located in South Fremont between Antelope and Stanford Avenue is our gated community called Vineyard Heights. The third boundary of our development is also the Mission Peak Regional Park. Brush, grass, and weeds growing in the park along our development have reached danger levels. In the next few weeks, these growths will become timber dry, and all it will need is a spark of fire to set the park and our homes ablaze. It is a pity that no one from East Bay Regional Park District has noticed this hazard and has taken steps to clear the brush, grass, and weeds. This needs your immediate attention. Moreover, this needs to happen multiple times from the late spring through summer and fall as required. We cannot afford the recent fire disasters that totally devastated the North Bay communities. Mission Peak is an extremely, almost irresistible popular spot, particularly on the Stanford entry side. Some people smoke, carelessly throwing lighted cigarette butts and lighted matchsticks wherever they want. A few even do drugs and heavy drinking at night when the park should be closed. Nobody watches over the actions of these inebriated people. These are literally cases of playing with fire, especially when dry brush is around. Several years ago, someone set fire to their own car, and had not the fire department been alerted of the situation by the Vineyard Heights homeowners, a horrible tragedy may have taken place. We cannot let the lack of required maintenance on the park lead to a full-fledged disaster. Recently, a resident of Vineyard Heights was denied insurance for their home by an insurance company because of the high fire risk of our area. This is a problem arising out of a potentially grave and frightening scenario and must be dealt with without delay by your organization. We urge you to take immediate action on this very serious matter. Kurt Wegener. Good afternoon. My name is Kurt Wegener, newly retired from 40 years of corporate financial management. I was born and raised in Kentucky, have lived in the Bay Area for 20 years, currently in Oakland, previously in Solano and Santa Clara counties. I want to thank you for supporting climate crisis resolutions and resilience activities. I am a volunteer board member, currently acting president and officer of the United Nations Association East Bay chapter, which covers Alameda and Contra Costa County. The UN has declared the decade of ecosystem restoration, and our UNA chapter would like to partner with East Bay Parks and local youth organizations to implement these actions by activating volunteers, supplementing with subject matter expertise. Also, I was a newly installed ambassador in February to the park system. I briefly met both directors Coffey and Rosario at that February ambassador orientation meeting. I am here for the purpose of asking you to partner with my East Bay chapter. Together we can pivot both organizations more effectively to engage volunteers to reforest and target increased photosynthesis. My suggested targeted volunteers will be youth and their families, most likely grandparents. I have read parts of your master plan for the East Contra Costa Hills and grasslands and would like us to discuss how to sequester more CO2 during this coming decade. My thought relates to speeding and assisting natural restoration in Contra Costa grasslands between Concord and Brentwood. In particular, start with the 2,500 newly acquired former naval weapons area. Once a location plan is established, we can start activating youth organizations and grantors for this reforesting. I think we have two more. Doug Yamamoto. He says, as a regular frequent visitor to the Bay and its shoreline during this pandemic crisis, I am hoping that you consider reopening on a limited basis the Point Isabel Park. I believe that this can be done safely and without unnecessary risk to the public. One suggestion on how this might be accomplished would be to require dogs to be on leash only. This would limit dog-to-dog contact, as well as making it easier for the humans to maintain physical distancing until the virus becomes more under control. A reopened Point Isabel would look very similar to what is happening in our neighborhoods currently. As one who daily walks my dogs around the Albany, Berkeley, El Cerrito neighborhoods for the past 10 years, and for the previous 20 years on a 3 to 4 times a week basis, the shelter-in-place policy has significantly increased the total number of walkers, runners, bike riders, and dog walkers out every day. Previous to the pandemic, in an hour and a half walk, I might see 3 people walking their dogs and a handful of other walkers. Except for weekends, there would be no children. Today, at just one random intersection, I might see 3 dog walkers and more people running or walking, plus families out for a walk or bike ride. And pretty much every block, there are people outside walking or running with dogs or without, on bikes or without. A reopened Point Isabel would not be much different than what is already happening on our streets now. And we would have a beautiful sight to roam around. And then the last one says, it just says, Kim, from Kim. Kim Nell. Firstly, I want to say thank you for keeping the parks open during this time. We all appreciate having a place to stretch out and breathe fresh air. Problem is that lately I've noticed an increasing number of runners in the park who are not masking when running past people on the trails. Hey, I'm a runner also, and I get that running with the mask on is challenging, but at the very least they should cover when running past people. All of this is made worse by the increasing number of new runners, both unfamiliar with running etiquette and maybe breathing a bit harder as they condition their bodies. To the point, I would really like to see increased signage and perhaps enforcement targeted at runners to mask up. Running past people, panting heavy and sweaty is rude these days. It's dangerous. And I think that is it, Madam President. There we go.
Would you like to hear me as well as see me? Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for reading all those public comments into the record. We appreciate that, and we appreciate that public comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mhm.
Our next item on the agenda is item C, which is our special update given by the general manager on the status of the East Bay Regional Park District emergency during our COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. General Manager, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board, and public, staff and public. First of all, thank you for your dedication of trying to work through all the issues we have to operate in a different world. The Park District has faced a pandemic and an experience to try to keep our park staff safe, the public safe, and parks open. And we've never had to do this before. So I want to remind the public and everyone else that we're doing our best. These are challenging times. Clearly, from the comments and other things that we've received, people are on edge. They've been locked up now since March 16th. We're on week 10. And so this is an ever-changing environment for us. We are managers and stewards of the environment, but this has been a social and democratic experiment to comply both willingly and voluntarily, as well as orders, with the ever-changing health orders. We appreciate the coordination in the Bay Area, but even that is starting to see its own tension with different counties starting to do different things. I'm extremely proud of this district. We have more than 90% of our parks open. Our open space, our shorelines, our trails, 90%. The challenge now, because of the unprecedented use of those parks, is to get more open. And we also need help by other agencies opening up more and having cities help by providing walkable streets and areas where people have alternatives, because our staff is still limited. I want to remind the public listening today as well is that we still have 300 people in our total staffing who are not yet able to be provided a workspace that they can occupy according to the health rules. We have to social distance our crews. We have to social distance our trucks, only one person. The corporation yards where people work in offices are also limited. So we are still living with restrictions and challenges that are not going to go away, and they're not going to go away anytime soon. To repopulate our offices, our headquarters, buildings is still not allowed under the health orders, and we are working on what we anticipate will be additional protocols so we can begin to repopulate our buildings, but we're not there yet. We will be living with the impacts from this virus for a long time, and I'm extremely proud to be a part of the Bay Area who have done such a good job at reducing the impact and spread of the virus. But we are not through it. As the board knows, there are still people getting very sick. It is a sad and scary time for many people. And I think some of the letters we receive are a reflection of that. But we're doing our best. And I'm really pleased that our staff has risen to the occasion to do their part to help people who need parks more than ever. In the late 1800s, Frederick Law Olmsted has a very good quote when he was talking about designing Central Park, that he felt it was a fundamental democratic obligation to provide healthy, safe parks for people in urban areas in industrializing America. We're there today with the crowds that we're seeing who have no other place to go to get outside with their families, get outside with their dogs, and be able to get some fresh air and exercise. And we're doing our best. And I think the staff has done an outstanding job. I also want to, again, reference that we have been working with the health departments of 2 full counties, not 1 county, but Contra Costa and Alameda County. About 1/3 of the population in the Bay Area resides in the East Bay in those 2 counties. We have worked to provide 3 webinars on the virus, on protocols, on safety, as it relates to parks through UCSF. And I want to thank the UCSF staff and the health departments for giving their time to specifically focus on parks. But ultimately, the decisions on these health orders, as referenced in some of our letters today, are a decision on what the East Bay Regional Park can do safely, on what it is pragmatic or reasonable to think we can enforce, on what we can get people to do. And the public plays a huge role in voluntarily wearing a mask, bringing a mask, wearing a mask, involuntarily keeping their distances, involuntarily not using picnic areas, involuntarily putting their dog on a leash because of crowds. We are seeing far more dog use in the bigger parks because the little dog parks aren't open. That is one of our reasons for providing a request for people to voluntarily put their dogs on a leash. It's because there are more people and more dogs using the regional parks than ever. There are more instances of dogs off leash chasing cattle, which are critical to reducing fire in this district. So we're still struggling with this. I think we're making good progress. And I want to particularly thank the board for supporting the general manager and staff in providing emergency funding for public information. We have put out more public information on radio and TV and newspapers than any other agency, including statewide agencies. And I think it's been helpful. And that's where the messaging really has to go. The signage in the parks, the public messaging, the media contacts. And I really think we've done a marvelous job to our Public Affairs Department and our Government Relations Department with contacting and working with local elected officials. We've had great support and cooperation. I wanted to reference kind of the next tier of what we've been trying to do. We can say a park is open with a wave of the hand, but we need to provide the staffing to take care of that park. And so the limits that we have are not that we can't reopen a park because of a health order. The limits are because do we have the staffing in place to properly adhere to the best of our ability to managing those parks in the safest way possible for the staff and for the public. So I wanted to reference a couple of possible things that I think will be happening very soon. We are working on a plan to look at how we reopen Del Valle State Park that we operate on behalf of the state to get into the lower parking lots. It will not include swimming, and at this point will not include camping, but it would provide more parking availability into the interior of the park, probably on the east side where the big parking lots are, for hiking, biking, and enjoying that park. That is something that Operations and Public Safety is looking at. On Point Isabel, I am very happy to report that we think we can reopen Point Isabel, probably with additional limits by June 1st. That's just a couple of weeks away. And we're very hopeful that that will allow for the windsurfing access as well as dog walking on leash. And we may limit some of the uses, but we will need the help from PIDO and from other organizations to help us educate the public, because what we're seeing is the complaints that people aren't social distancing or aren't controlling their dogs. But that is a very small number of people compared to the huge volume of people using our parks. So we believe it's feasible, but we will need the cooperation and assistance of dog groups and people who love Point Isabel. But we also again say, cities, you really have to help us too by providing recreation and places for people to walk their dogs and walk without traffic. And so I would hope that every city, the 33 cities in the East Bay, would look at closing off streets to traffic occasionally and providing more places for people to walk. We are in fact still overwhelmed with the park use, and we have a holiday coming up this weekend. We are going to be on all hands on deck. We have the plans for the weekend, but it's going to be again exceeding what we normally have on this time of year. We're frankly having holidays every day of the week in the Park District now as far as the volume of people using our parks. So we are doing our best. And I think you will continue to see, as you did last week and the week before, additional areas coming back online, being allowed to be reopened. But we still have to manage the health and safety of our staff and our public. And on that regards, again, I really want to thank the Labor Management Task Force, which includes board members, WASPy and Rosario, that we've really had an open, cooperative communication with the leadership of our unions. And I'm so happy that we're getting reports now of the appreciation of people saying, I'm using your parks and they're clean. I'm using your parks and your restroom was beautiful. And so those are important things that we got through a very difficult time. And to remind the board, we were very conservative on when we reopened the restrooms. We wanted to make sure that we had some time to get our PPEs for protection, to get the new protocols and training in place before we reopen them. And I think that was a wise decision. It was a conservative decision. And I think now we're really doing well to get the public back in there and enjoying those parks. I'm seeing lots of comments from the public, as you probably are, about how pleased they are to see restrooms and parks clean. And I really want to thank our labor force and our staff for working so hard to do that. Finally, on the EOC will be going to 2 days a week, reducing that because they feel they have the trajectory of supply line into the system. They feel that they've got a good communication for planning in place. And so I'm pleased that the emergency side of things are starting to calm down a little bit, let people get back to work. And but they were really happy that we have all the necessary supplies and a supply line in place to keep our staff safe and to keep the parks maintained. And I think that was another thing that took us a while, as the board knows. This was a national crisis on getting PPEs and getting emergencies. And the first priority were the frontline emergency healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, emergency responders. So we're there. And I think that's another good report. So I think we're still in the process of managing overwhelming crowds. We need other places, including state parks and other counties, to open up so people have the ability to do recreation close by. That's our goal, to do safe social distancing, to bring a mask, wear a mask. I would comment that in the trainings we have received and the weekly meetings with the health leaders, they are not significantly concerned about occasional close passing on a trail. They are very concerned about long conversations between people who aren't in a group, a family group, of having face-to-face conversations or a long period of where they are having a discussion. A quick passing on a trail, whether it be by bike or a dog walker or anything else, is not the greatest concern. Yes, is there potential? There's potential everywhere, but that is not what they're concerned about. They're concerned about face-to-face. And what I would really want to send as a message is, I don't want our staff in a position where they're having to publicly shame, publicly argue with people who are not wearing a mask, people who may not be social distancing. Maybe they're 5 feet away instead of 6 feet away. We're not checking who's a family member on an extended family. We need the public to help us to keep our staff safe and themselves safe by doing their own regulation of their own safety, because I don't want our public safety or our staff being in a situation where they have an extended conversation of potential exposure with somebody they don't know. And finally, I will also ask the public to help us. We are seeing people drop masks that they were wearing on the trail in the parking lot. Not in a garbage can, not taking it home. It's their personal protection, but leaving them in the park. That is not safe. That is not polite. It is just not the way that we should be having this democratic experiment with people. We need their help. I have seen gloves, rubber gloves, thrown into a parking lot. They can put it in the trash can, or they can please take it home. There's where the potential exposure is. And I don't want the staff having to be any more out there doing their job in a risk than we can possibly avoid. We need to keep everybody safe, and we need the public's help. Frustration is running high, anxiety of being shut in place, depression, all those things is running high in society. And I ask that everybody is considerate of the staff we have on the front line of our parks to keep them safe too. And that is that we all are in this together, and it's a critical time, and things are not going to return to normal. We're going to be with this, and the better at it we get, the safer, the happier we will all be. So thanks to the board, and a really appreciation to all the staff who's keeping our parks open and our trails open and being available for the public. So thank you. We're making progress.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Director Lane, did I see your hand up? Okay. All right. Director Eccles.
Yeah, well, I would just like to say that clearly from the beginning, I think all of us in the board and in senior management and rank and file have wanted to keep our parks as open as possible, consistent with protecting the safety of the public and our staff. And I'm really delighted that we're able to continue to move forward with opening parks. They are so critical to people's physical and mental well-being. And I am particularly pleased that there is a date to open Point Isabel in the near future. And I think it's fair to say that we will be able to count on both the windsurfers and Pido and all of the other active users at Point Isabel to help us keep Point Isabel safe, and the public and staff who are there safe as well. So just wanted to say thanks to everybody, and look forward to working together to continue to open up our parks and make more available to the public.
Thank you very much, Director Eccles. Any other comments by board members? Director Coffey?
Well, I wanted to address the general manager for a moment. Obviously, we are all hearing of increased user conflict on the trails. We're all getting that notes, and we're out there and experiencing it. Some of these notes that we're getting have targeted concerns about bicycles and bicycles not following the rules. My wife and I had a bad encounter at Point Pinole this weekend with a bicyclist on a narrow dirt trail, unlawfully there. And it's occurring with increasing frequency. At the end of the Trails Workshop last year, one of the follow-ups that was going to take place was some sort of organized interface by the park district with the various trail use constituencies, stakeholders. Today and in recent notes, we're being asked by the bicycle community leadership if they can be of assistance. And so it just all leads me to suggest that there needs to be maybe that follow-up to that trails workshop by getting the key constituencies, stakeholders, and trail use together, and maybe help us with our outreach toward what type of behavior is acceptable, and trying to deal with this increasing trail use conflict.
Thank you, Director Coffey. So we'll ask staff to look into moving that forward as was requested. As we know, things are a little, things are different with COVID-19 and people are busy doing lots of different things. So I'm sure we'll be back on track on that as we are on almost everything else we're doing right now. So thank you very much for reminding us of that. And thank you, Mr. General Manager. And anyone else? All right. Oh yes, Director Rosario.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the participation of ASME 2428 and the POA, the Police Officers Association, in their participation in the workforce, and the very good flow of communication between everybody in that committee. And I think it's gone to, just wanted to let the public know that this was a very good, open committee, and was very good for communication, as well as solving some sticky issues. So I wanted to thank both those groups and management too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Rosario. Any other comments? Is that a thumb up or a hand up? Hello, Director Waspy, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I would also like to echo the comments of everyone else. General Manager Doyle, thank you very much. I think you're thoroughly on top of this. I think your staff is thoroughly on top of this. And again, along with Director Rosario, I thank the AFSCME members and the Police Association members for being such great participants in this. I would never call it a grand experiment, but it is an experiment. We're all being asked to do things we've never done before. And there are some stumbling along the way. I can't believe some of the litter I've seen in the parks and some of the behavior I've seen, but I think it's changing and it's getting better. And I look forward to, and I appreciate especially staff looking to open more parks, because I think we are, as we're quoted, the only game in town. And I think it's a great game. And I think we really should work towards opening more, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Director Waspy. Anyone else? I would just make a few, I was going to call you Director Victor. General Counsel Victor. Yes.
Director Corbett, Carol Victor, District Counsel. I just want to remind the board that there is a resolution to reaffirm the existence of a local East Bay Regional Park District emergency.
Yes, that's the next item as soon as we're done with the comments. Thank you so much for keeping us on track. I would just like to make one last comment on the General Manager's comments. I sit on the AOC, and I just want to say that it's amazing to watch how everybody has come together, pulled together, used all of their amazing talents and love for the Park District to steer us through this tough storm. At the EOC one meeting ago, there was a summary of some of the things that we have done over the last few weeks, and I will pull out my notes and share those specifically with the board at the next meeting. But it's really remarkable how far we have come from the very first days when we heard about this shelter in place sort of out of the blue, and the work that we've done to continue to keep our parks open for our public and also keep our public safe and ensure that we put together protocols and policies, that we can continue to perform at the high standards that we do here at the Park District. So that takes a ton of teamwork. And so thanks to everybody who's been involved in that. So thank you so much. And on that note, also under item C, we do have a resolution reaffirming the existence of the local East Bay Regional Park District emergency. And I'm so sorry, Madam General Counsel, I'm not looking at my other document right now, but how long are we extending this for?
So this basically reaffirms the resolution that the board, the emergency resolution from March 19th, 2020, and that had a 60-day reaffirmation. And so we would come back in 60 days unless the board has declared the end of an East Bay Regional Park District emergency.
Okay.
And
so it's a re-upping on the 60 days. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution? Director Lane?
If we adopt this resolution to continue the emergency at the Park District for 60 days.
Thank you very much, Director Lane. Who would like to second that?
Second.
Seconded by Director Waspy. Roll call on the motion. Director Wieskamp, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Lane?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Waspy?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett is an aye. That's unanimous adoption of the continued resolution of emergency for the Park District. Thank you all very much. The next item on our agenda is our consent calendar. Madam Clerk, have all the questions of board members been answered? Consent calendar?
Yes, I believe so. Director Rosario did have a question on item G regarding
Okay.
support for S3288.
Okay, is that the only item that we have questions or comments on, Madam Clerk?
Consent calendar, yes, Madam President.
On the consent calendar? Okay. Director Rosario, I'll recognize you for item B with your comment.
Okay. In item G, it's the resolution to support S3288. But also in the background, it said that we were not taking a position on HR 2199, which is a House bill, which is similar. Is there a reason for that?
Director Rosario, Eric Feeler, Government Affairs Manager. This bill is a combination of 3 House bills that the Senator has introduced. And we have taken position on the Redwood bill because it calls for redwood restoration. And so therefore, Legislative Committee recommended supporting the Senate bill. There's no reason we can't support the other 2 bills included in it, but they deal with the Central Coast and the San Gabriel Mountains, so they're not particular. The nexus to the Park District isn't particularly there, but we can certainly bring both of those to the committee if that's their pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think even though there's no nexus to the Park District, there is kind of a nexus in sharing with other agencies that have similar issues of protection of open space. So yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Noted.
Thank you very much, Director Rosario and Director of Government, Eric Fielder. Thank you so much. All right, so let's see. If there are no more questions or comments on the consent calendar, a motion is in order to adopt the consent calendar.
Need somebody to.
Director Wieskamp moves. Who seconds?
Second.
Second by Director Eccles. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, we will take a roll call vote on the consent calendar. Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Coffey.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett, aye. Unanimous adoption of the consent calendar. Thank you all very much. And our next item, item 2 in the open session. Let's see, let me do a time check. So we are going to, it's the time being 2 o'clock. We're 1 hour into the meeting. We are going to take a quick, very quick 10-ish minute break. So please, so if the public's listening, our apologies, but just for a moment, we're going to take a quick break so we can continue this meeting. So you can go ahead and mute your mute your cameras and your microphones, and we will be back in 10 minutes on our item with regard to our report center acquisition, stewardship, and development. Thank you. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Yolanda, are you there?
Yes.
I just have a quick question. So during the public comments, there was the first woman named Carrie who spoke from Alameda.
Yes.
And then also,
Director Corbett, we're live. We're on live audio.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I was just going to ask about making sure that we responded to her letter.
Oh, yes. Yes, I have that note.
That was it. Okay, thank you so much. Now I'll stop choking and get ready for the rest of the meeting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Be there in a minute.
Who knows?
Well, that's a nice open space screen. I hope everybody can figure out how to get back.
When it's removed, you'll be back.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have to do anything.
Well,
but our voices are live to the public right now.
yeah,
Yes.
I had to search around to find my video and was in a new place. So
Okay.
And Beverly, that is a picture of Deer Valley from Black Diamond. And if you had binoculars, you could see all the way to Jack Roddy's house. That entire valley, as far as you can see, is in the park.
wow. It's a beauty, isn't it?
From sea to shining sea.
Director Lane, I know we're live, but I wanted to just comment that in the middle of our meeting, your cat walked by with just the tail in the picture, and it looked like like some type of other, like a lemur. It looked like a lemur's tail going by. So wonderful wildlife in the park district.
It's the first time she's decided that Zooms are all right and she's gotten on my lap. But I think I pretty much controlled the tail. Not too well, but she's no longer afraid when I'm doing this, which is not necessarily a good thing.
She's being discreet
Yeah.
so far. Boy, is the wind blowing. Is the wind blowing up there, Beverly?
All right, everybody, 1 minute warning, 1 minute warning.
No.
Okay.
It's pretty quiet here in Oakland.
It is windy in Danville. Okay. Super windy.
We had the wind on this side of the hill yesterday. It was quite windy.
Yeah.
Everybody ready?
Sure.
Can I see you if you're ready? Please open your cameras. Oh, we need to move the screen.
Yeah, you're gonna have to scroll down here. Thanks.
Let's see, do I see all of you? 3, 4, 5.
Missing Ann.
Missing
I'll
Ann
get off.
and Dennis. Is Dennis with us?
Yes. He just doesn't have his,
Dennis, are you back?
Yes, I'm.
Back in the USA? And Anne, do we have Anne?
yes.
There
Nope.
she is. Hello, Anne. All right, I see everybody. All board members are present. Thank you, public, for your patience while we took that quick break. And we are now on the long-awaited part of the agenda. Item 2 on Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development Division. We have some really great projects that are going to be presented to us this afternoon. Just more proof that the Park District doesn't let anything stop it. And we move ahead with our projects, especially our very important infrastructure projects, even at this time. So with that, I believe that this will be introduced by our AGM, Christina Kelchner.
Thank you, Director Corbett. Christina Kelchner, Assistant General Manager of Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development. And as Director Corbett said, we do have 4 separate open session items to present to you today. And each of these is a significant item that maintains existing infrastructure or expands new public access or restores wildlife habitat. So these are significant projects, and they represent interdisciplinary effort from stewardship, trails, planning, design, and construction all across the division. And I just really congratulate staff for moving these forward despite the current challenges of our shelter-in-place order. So the projects range across the district. So we'll start in East County with Contra Loma, and then we'll move south to Hayward Shoreline, and then to the west with MLK Shoreline and McLaughlin East Shore. So we're going to start with Contra Loma. And this project relates to the maintenance of an existing facility. It's a very important facility that provides water recreation in an area that has high temperatures out near Antioch, and where access to water is fairly limited for folks out there. This is the Swim Lagoon at Contra Loma Regional Park, and it is in need of maintenance. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Gorgian, our Chief of Design and Construction, to give the presentation.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Director President Corbett, Board of Directors. I'm going to share my screen. How is that?
Looks good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. As Christina mentioned, this item is about repairs needed to the swim lagoon at Contra Loma Regional Park in Antioch. I always want to begin when we're talking about swim facilities with a reminder from District Council Carol Victor, who I think it's always important to convey that the Park District has a goal of outreach and teaching children how to swim, both as a recreational and a public health issue. Drowning is the second leading cause of accidental death for children 1 to 14. And as municipal pools and swim education becomes less frequent and less available, it really is emphasizes the critical role that the district has with these providing these swim facilities. So with that, I'm going to begin. So the park is in Antioch, as I mentioned. The lagoon was built in 2003 to replace lake swimming that had been available since the 60s. Contra Costa Water District manages the lake reservoir that is adjacent to the swim lagoon. So the swim lagoon is this very bright blue facility, and the lake, it's about an 80-acre reservoir for water storage. And the district is responsible for the operation and maintenance of the lagoon. This is such a nice photos that show how popular and busy this facility is. It has well over 60,000 visitors annually within an area that has few other opportunities for public swimming. And when this was built, it sort of to replace the lake swimming, this facility, this lagoon has sand as a recreational feature. It offers a lot of play experience, and it also has an impact on the longevity of the facility as it wears the surface. This is a photo. It almost looks unreal, so I just wanted to comment. It's a photo, and in it you can see the sand along the edge, and you can see within the water area there are dark areas, and that's where the sand has eroded the bottom of the swim lagoon, the paint and the waterproofing, and it creates visibility issues for the lifeguards because it takes away that contrast that the bottom paint really provides when there are people using it. The lagoon was repainted back in 2014, and it was expected to, with a lifespan of about 5 years, and so it's met that lifespan, and so now we're seeing the need to make repairs again. So this item is recommending to appropriate money to do this work, and the work that would be done as part of this would be to prepare the surface with by removing the old surface and then sealing and replacing some pumps and coping and tiling. And this is work that we anticipate would then be able to continue the work would be able to contribute to future renovations that would be needed. So unlike the previous work that it had a shorter lifespan, this is work that we'd be investing in now that would then be able to not be needed to do later because we've already done it. So also with a note just with regard to the schedule, we understand that this is a really critical project. We would like to get it done as soon as possible. And we also need to coordinate with the third party, with the Contra Costa Water District. And we also sometimes don't always have control over things like weather. So in thinking about this being a critical project, we anticipate our goal is to get it done maybe by early or mid-August so that it would still be able to be open mid-summer should we have swim facilities open at that time. But given the sense that there are some unknowns, our thought is that it might be some value or helpful for the board for us to come back at a later date with an update on how things are progressing. So I mentioned this a little bit, but this will extend, these repairs will extend the useful life of the lagoon for another 8 to 10 years, and they will contribute to future long-term renovations that are needed at the lagoon. And it will allow the lagoon to continue to be operated until longer-term renovations are identified. So the estimated cost of the project is about $725,000. We are recommending using the Major Infrastructure and Repair Replacement Fund. And we also, as part of our agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation and Contra Costa Water District, would be looking to them to have conversations about future major renovations. So this is work that we can do now that will keep the lagoon operational, but we are looking at a larger renovation project where we will remove the sand and look at other recreational components that will add the same sort of play factor as the sand, but are easier on the facility to operate. So it's not going to be something that's going to be continually wearing like the sand does. So we worked with our finance to look at available funds within the Major Infrastructure Repair and Replacement Fund, and there are funds available for this project, for this purpose. So this just breaks down sort of what we're anticipating in terms of the design and permit component, and then construction. And I think we also just wanted to zoom out and think about this project, this repair project, in context of other needed major infrastructure and repair work that is needed for the swim facilities throughout the district. So we have been to the board about the renovation needs at Roberts Pool, and then, which is on the left, which we are currently in the design and permit phase now. And as I mentioned just right now, we are currently looking at feasibility studies for major renovation of Contra Loma Swim Lagoon, to look at what are our opportunities to renovate it so that we can remove the sand and provide other recreational amenities within the lagoon area. So it can still really serve a wide variety of users. Sometimes we like to call them, the zero depth, things that allow kids to play near the water, but they don't have to necessarily be in it. And of course, Lake Temescal, which is a swim facility. It is also a natural resource. And so this is another future needed project to provide, to work on this regional asset as well. So the recommendation this afternoon is to authorize the transfer and appropriation $725,000 from the Major Infrastructure Repair and Replacement Fund to do the repairs needed for the swim lagoon to keep it operational. And this is something we would do with our job order contracting contractor. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give it back to you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And board members, do you have any questions or comments about the Contra Loma project? Director Lane and then Director Coffey.
Yes, I have sort of peripheral comment, but I also am wondering about the $725,000. Is this, have we talked to Contra Loma or the Bureau about participating in helping to pay for this? It especially comes to mind because we have so many other needs with our other swim facilities, as you mentioned, Lisa. This is, we have the lagoon, because the water district made the decision to end swimming in the reservoir with no scientific proof, I might add, that it might be a problem for the water quality. And for 40 years, people had done long distance swimming there and swam off the beach as well. So while it's a beautiful lagoon and we can all see the gorgeous, pale blue of that water and how much it is appreciated, it is the result of a decision which people have been critical of because of the decision that was made. And so I think myself that there's a responsibility on the part of the water district for sure to not only help with major improvements of this, which are due, but also with this. So I'd like to know if those conversations have happened.
Director Lane from the general manager, those conversations with CCWD have not happened. As you know, we have had a liaison meeting that have coordinated their efforts to acquire the canal system, the Bureau system, which includes Contra Loma. They have passed legislation, but the transfer will not occur from the Bureau to the Water District until next year, probably sometime late summer. We have talked to the Bureau and have encouraged them. First of all, we have existing grants, 2 grants existing from the Bureau of Reclamation for access improvements to fishing, the boat ramp and bathrooms there. And that's about 160 to 180 in total. So we were told, frankly, that those could be at risk because of budgets, but we were reassured by the Bureau that those should be safe, but there's no promises in the future after the transfer. We certainly can bring up with the Water District at a general manager level or a board level liaison meeting that we'd appreciate a contribution from the Water District. As you know, from being on the liaison committee, they are faced with millions of dollars of repairs to the canal itself for the water system. So it just depends on what the interest of their board is to partner.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Director Coffey.
Lisa, you pointed out how popular the facility is, and it is currently sorely missed. And I suppose we weren't looking toward a regular summer season there in any event. But could you describe or forecast what is the operationally, what is it going to be there at the facility over the next months, and when and if it may reopen? And given that this is a repair designed to extend the life before we undertake this major renovation project, what's the time frame for that? So, in other words, this will reopen after this repair. For how long? And to the extent we don't know, that's certainly a valid response. But I want to get a general overview of what's going to be happening with the facility in the future.
Well, I'll just start to answer, and then I might defer to Christina or the general manager. But the work this summer will the lagoon area will remain closed. We need to work with the Contra Costa Water District they need to lower the water. We need to move back the sand to have the work done. There's several processes that need to get put on the lagoon where there's curing involved. So that's the work. The work itself, once we're able to get started, should take about a month. So we're excited about that. And ideally then it will be able to open again. The work that we're doing will also help, as I mentioned, to get us, it's identified work that's been identified as part of this larger feasibility study that really will, as part of that work is to look at how we can continue to operate the lagoon without the sand. And so the work that we're doing will contribute to that. So we won't have to do that at a later date. We're doing it now. So that's, I think, very positive. We had started the feasibility study this fall because we understood that the lagoon needed to have a major renovation, and this repair sort of came to light earlier this year that it was really more urgent and couldn't wait. And so it was a nice opportunity for us to be able to take the information we already had and incorporate that into repairs now. So I think that the intent would be to do these repairs now, and then we should be coming back to the board with the feasibility study of what the long-term options are to repair to renovate the lagoon. And once we have a concept plan that's approved by the board, then I would imagine we'll start working with government affairs and our grants program to secure funding and start working on what that to secure funding for the renovation. And because we're doing these repairs now, it gives us a number of years to get funding in place to then deliver that.
Okay, so there will continue to be operations with the sand once
Yes.
once the facility is repaired and we go back to near normal times.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Director Coffey, the goal here was, since we have been closed and we know we have to be closed and there is not yet any kind of a green light for this kind of large group swimming, we wanted to get it done as fast as possible now. The lifeguards have been concerned for a while that as that bottom wears out, it's harder and harder for them to get a good view of who's in the water. So it's a safety, it's really an emergency repair. I was pleased to hear from Lisa that repair will last several years. And that gives us time to look at the larger feasibility of sand, no sand, and how we do that. There could be sand nearby, but not that would have a berm so it doesn't get all, anytime the water, like a wave action that brings the sand into the water. So we're looking at all those things, but number one is safety. We've had a great track record on safety in our lakes, and that's what we're trying to do. We can't say yet. I know that Lisa is being cautious, but how fast we can get this done. But the goal is to get it done and perhaps still save some portion of the late summer, fall swim season, which I know that would be a goal of the board. And hopefully that will coincide with further operational guidelines on reopening some summer use. We know it's a long, hot summer in East County, and this is a critically important facility for people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I do have a quick question. Oh, Director Waspy, you go first.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would speak in favor of this. I think it's an excellent idea to get this facility fixed. I've been to Contra Loma many, many times and have worked there many, many times. And I think as beautiful as those hills are and as beautiful as the fishing is there, I think the major attraction in that hot East Contra Costa County is the swimming. And I think we owe it to the communities to provide that recreation and that getting into water in the hot summers. I think it's important that we make good on that. I hope we can get it done as quickly as possible. I think that I hope we can be more creative. I saw the photo of Roberts Park, and I see how they've really transformed Roberts into a swimming, a learning to swim facility, teaching swimming, and even having swim teams participate there. So I hope we might be able to extend that service to the community of Antioch and the surrounding communities. So I'm highly in favor of this.
Thank you very much, Director Waspy. I am thankful to the advocacy of our lifeguards who want to make sure these repairs happen quickly for the safety of that facility so we can continue our great record. But I also do have a really quick question for you, Lisa. So I know that there's a few things that have to fall into place first before the construction actually begins. But I'm just wondering what processes do we have in place to ensure that the contractors move along quickly and try to hit a target of being opened before the end of the summer, if everything goes well?
Yeah, thank you, Director Corbett. We do have processes in place, so we do we'll give a schedule, and we do have the ability to enforce liquidated damages if the contractor is being non-responsive or not moving ahead to our schedule. So that's one tool that we have in our toolbox. And then certainly we will also work with them to remove barriers so they can accelerate as needed. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much. All right, if there's no additional, oh yes, we have another question. Director Lane.
Well, I just, I think the project is one that we need to go ahead with and pursue. I know that Contra Costa Water has, built this originally and put money into it in the past. And I'm disappointed that we have not talked to them about participating in helping to defray this expensive project. I also have some opinions with some experience on sand. And sand was part of this because our operations manager, Jerry Kent, felt like a lagoon was nothing unless you had sand for people to play in. And everybody who's had anything to do with water facilities that are not an open beach and sand knows the corrosive qualities of it. So I would hope that when you look at a future project there, you don't kid yourself that sand at some distance from a lagoon is going to work, because sand travels because there are children. And so I just want to toss that, for the decade to come. I know we have to do this project, but I'm not happy with our being alone in paying for it.
So noted, Director Lane. Just as a reminder for the board, this was not a grant from the Water District. This was the settlement of a lawsuit, a protracted lawsuit that required in the settlement that they contribute to this. So it was not willingly, freely. It was a significant legal arm twist to get them to mitigate the impacts of not having open swimming there. So we can certainly ask, but it was not a partnership. It was a settlement.
Yes, I remember that, but and I was pleased we got the settlement as far as it went, but they have a responsibility for that.
Thank you all very much. If there's no additional comments or questions, a motion on the resolution to repair the Contra Loma Lagoon is in order. It looks like Director Coffey will be making that motion.
Thank you. Yes, I'll move approval of the resolution to appropriate funds for the repair of the Contra Loma Swim Lagoon.
And Director Waspy is a second. All right, let's do a roll call on that. All those in favor of the resolution to repair the Contra Loma Lagoon, please state aye. Director Wieskamp?
Aye.
Director Lane?
No, because of the funding.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Waspy?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett is an aye. That is a 6-1 vote in favor of adopting the resolution. All right, thank you all. Another fine project in the queue from Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development. And the next item is authorization to execute a contract with Upright Engineering for consulting services and transfer and appropriate funds to restore the Hayward Marsh.
Thank
Hello.
you, Director Corbett. And again, this is Christina Kelchner from ASD, and I'm going to hand it over to Matt Grau. This again is a project that has been a close partnership between planning, DECO, and stewardship. So Matt Grau is going to provide the introduction, and then Chris Barton, the the Environmental Programs Manager, Chris Barton, will give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Christina. This is Matt Grawl. I'm the district's Chief of Stewardship. And
Welcome.
thank you, President Corbett and members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this item forward. Just want to give a brief introduction to the project. This is something the district's been involved in at this site for more than 30 years. This marsh was originally constructed as a demonstration of how to beneficially reuse wastewater. Union Sanitary District partnered with the Park District to construct this marsh. An important thing to consider, though, is this marsh, when it was constructed as a treatment marsh, one, it was cutting edge and it was one of the first marshes of this kind created. Also, though, it was built in dry conditions. It was built on old salt ponds. And so when they constructed it, it was a little less than $1 million at the time. But it was all built on all these in this dry area. So they were able to work very easily. Several years ago, we did a feasibility study in partnership with the Union Sanitary District to look at what it would take to maintain this area and to enhance it and allow it to function for another 50 years as a wastewater treatment marsh. And that study found that it was going to be $25 to $28 million to repair it and improve it and to keep it functioning to treat wastewater and to meet our goals of creating a wildlife habitat there. And so at that point, the Union Sanitary District determined it wasn't a good investment for them to continue investing capital funds into this marsh because there wouldn't be certainty that the marsh could meet the water quality goals of the water board for the next 50 years. And so they wanted to look for an option that would better serve their needs and give them certainty. And then the Park District really wanted to make sure we could maintain the wildlife habitat that's out there. As many of you have been on the site and have seen the least tern colony that's been constructed by Stewardship. And it's one of the most successful least tern colonies in the state of California. It is one of the, we have a very successful nesting rate on the island, and we really have done a great job enhancing least tern and snowy plover habitat in this marsh area. So it's a great opportunity for marsh enhancement and restoration. And Chris will really now talk more about this project and the specifics, and I'll be certainly available to answer questions at the end of the presentation if you have any. So thank you, Chris.
Great, thanks, Matt. Chris Barton, Environmental Programs Manager. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just bear with me for a moment. Okay. Okay. President Corbett, members of the board, Chris Barton, Environmental Programs Manager. So thanks for the introduction, Matt, to this project. It's really good to have that background. So the item before you is Restore Hayward Marsh. It's the former Union Sanitary District marsh. And this project is a line item project on the Measured WW project list. So the recommendation before you today is two-part. One is to award the consultant contract to do the pre-design work to restore the marsh and have public access enhancements as well. The second part of the action is to move funds from Measure WW into a project account to begin work on this project. So Hayward Marsh is the southernmost shoreline park in the district. The project area is a subset or just a small portion of the park, and that's the area that we're referring to as Hayward Marsh, the project area. So as Matt mentioned, this map may look familiar to the board. There was prior work that's been done, and there's actually additional work that's still ongoing to remove sediment. So there's some dredging and also some levee repair work, which has been occurring in areas 3A and 3B. So the marsh is owned by the district, and as Matt mentioned, it's been used for wastewater treatment for many years. It's 145 acres. Construction was completed in 1985, and it was originally designed for habitat. And the ponds and channels have since silted in, and as Matt explained, Union Sanitary District plans to stop discharges using it for wastewater treatment because it's no longer viable for that purpose. So the project scope, we're looking to plan for sea level rise and habitat resiliency and to enhance wildlife habitat. So here we have Dave Renchie out here with some photos of some of the endangered species, the snowy plover, the clapper, not clapper rail, ridgeways rail, and the least tern photos here. And then also we'll be looking for opportunities to enhance public access. Hopefully we can improve wildlife viewing with this project. And as Matt was explaining, there's habitat improvement opportunities out here, and that's what this the scope of work is going to include, is to come up with the right combination of wetland types, because there's opportunities for seasonal wetlands, muted tidal marsh, and also fully tidal areas. And then one of the main goals of the project is to ensure that we have a self-sustaining system with adequate hydrology, minimizing siltation and stagnant water, and also to reduce mosquito habitat. So the consultant scope includes existing conditions and opportunities and constraints report. So this is basically doing our homework to get up to speed and to understand the site so we could begin developing alternatives. And there's site-specific hydraulic modeling that's going to be conducted, so we can understand the sedimentation rates and also subsidence rates of the marsh, along with sea level rise projections. So we'll be able to see if we make certain improvements, what that would look like in, say, year 2050 or 2100. And after concept alternatives are developed, then a preferred alternative will be designed up to 35% design level. And the scope also includes analysis of the environmental effects, so CEQA. So this request for proposal process that we went through, it was last year, and we received 3 proposals, and Upright Engineering was selected, and they were selected based on their experience, and they put together a really great project team with a lot of experts. There's 6 sub-consultants that we have, ranging from hydrologists to civil engineers to air quality, greenhouse gas experts for our CEQA work that we need to do. Biologists and experts in regulatory permitting, hazardous materials and environmental assessments, and cultural resources. The contract amount is $687,322. And our schedule is once the board takes action to approve this contract, we will immediately begin working on the existing conditions, opportunities, and constraints, and technical studies. And we hope to conclude that process in the winter of 2021. And then during the spring and moving into the summer, we will be developing 3 alternatives. And then at that point, we will bring these 3 alternatives to the board executive committee to give an update. And following that, we'll have a public workshop to share these alternatives with stakeholders and to invite the public to come and learn about the project and to get some feedback. Okay, and then in winter of 2021, we will take all of the feedback that we received at that workshop and also from stakeholders, and develop a project description, the preferred concept for the board to consider. And before that, we'll first bring it to the board executive committee for their recommendation. We will consider having additional outreach meetings, and then we'll bring it to the full board for the board's review and consideration of the project description, and then also to seek direction to proceed with analyzing the project under CEQA. And in spring of 2022, that's when we will complete the CEQA review of the environmental effects, and then we will bring the item back to the board to seek direction on proceeding with finishing the implementation part of the project, basically to come up with a bid-ready package to go to construction. So overall, this is almost a 2-year process to get up to this point. The consultant contract amount, again, is $687,322. There's $100,000 there to cover staff time. Over a 2-year period, staff will be working on this project. And the total project cost will be determined as we go through this process under this consultant contract. We will be looking at constructability costs, especially for the selected alternative. That's where we're going to really narrow. We're really going to look at the costs and what the total project cost is going to be. So far, we have one grant that's pending with the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority for $500,000, and we've been invited to go to the next stage in this current grant cycle. And it's a great project. I think that we will be able to attract a lot of grants during the 2-year period that we're working through this pre-design work. We will be looking for grants, applying. I think it's a good amount of time. We'll be able to go through 2 grant cycles with 2 years. So I hope that we can come back and we can show you an excellent funding package as we progress in this project development. And that concludes my report. Again, it's a 2-part action. One is to approve the consultant contract, and the second one is to appropriate or to authorize and transfer and appropriate funds from Measure WW to proceed with the project.
Thank you very much, Chris. Do we have any questions or comments? I bet Director Waspy would like to say something about this.
Yes, I would. Thank you. Chris, thank you for all your great work, and Matt and everyone else in the ASD. I think this is a project that needs to be done. It's incredibly expensive. I always have the question, I think, I don't know that we should ask it at this stage of the game, but so we always talk about planning for sea level rise. And I'm wondering if you can tell me what is directly in the path if sea level rise did occur and we didn't plan for it, what big utilities? I know there's a power plant in the area, there's a railroad in the area, and there's a whole industrial community of Hayward. Did I miss anything? And is there any obligation on the part of those folks to help out on this?
I think for sea level rise, thanks for the question, Director Waspy. That's a great question. The sea level rise, as it relates to the project, is number one, to plan for public access. So we want to, basically the park district's objectives would come first. Those critical infrastructure areas are responsible for flood protection. The marsh, by virtue of providing a buffer between the rising seas and those uses, has a great function. But the main focus of the project for sea level rise is to provide habitat and public access long into the future, and be able to understand how the improvements we're making are going to be sustainable and provide those habitat values and public access into the future. And I think that will also help those other infrastructure protection needs.
All right, thank you. And one more, I think for Matt, you had mentioned that, or we all are looking for enhancement of the shoreline for public views and hiking and everything else. I remember, I think I remember that a couple of those ponds are fenced off and access is limited. And I'm wondering is that based on the mating of the bird populations we have that, or is it based on the fact that it's secondary treated effluent that's in those ponds? And if it is based on the effluent, now that there won't be any effluent coming from USD, will we be able to knock down those fences and have a much more aesthetic looking group of ponds?
Yes, so the answer is yes. The fence was there because of the former, because of the treatment of wastewater happening. And so that's something we're certainly going to look at, I mean, in this process, and we will definitely be able to take down those fences, I mean, because they're very appealing to the eye. But we will likely have to have some limited access seasonally based on bird nesting. And so we'll be looking at that in the design of where is appropriate to create additional access, and then what times of year would that access be appropriate in those areas. But we will definitely have better opportunities for access in this restored situation than we do now.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, without a doubt, those fences coming down, it'd be great.
All right. Any other comments or questions, board members? All right, I have a couple of comments. First of all, great opportunity to create even more habitat and access for the public to view habitat and endangered species. Really appreciate this project. It's quite exciting. And I think it opens up new opportunities for environmental education in addition to what we do in other parts of our parks. And I'm particularly excited because I know this is Dennis's district, but I spend a lot of time down in South Hayward at Chabot College, and I see this as a great opportunity for more programs to support the families of South Hayward, and also opportunities for the students at Chabot College to be involved in the, the environmental protection of our San Francisco Bay. So this looks like a really great project, and also appreciate something I don't think you mentioned, Chris, but I do know also that there has been some issues with regard to the mosquito population. I don't know if you mentioned at this time, but this will be a project that goes a long way to help make sure the waters have a little better circulation and we have less issues with the mosquito population. So I think that's a good public health benefit as well. So yeah, great project. Looks good. I'm jealous it's in Dennis's district. Any other questions, comments, board members? All right, if not, we have a resolution here that will allow the transfer of the WW funds for the project, and also will allow us to go forward with a contract with Upright Engineering for consulting services. Anybody like to make that motion? Director Waspy, perhaps?
Yes, please. I would move that motion and authorization to transfer funds.
Thank you very much, Director Waspy. Who would like to second it? Seconded by Director Rosario. All right, board members, I'll call the roll. All those in favor of that resolution: Director Wieskamp?
Aye.
Director Lane?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Waspy?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
And Director Corbett? Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. Great project. Our next item is item C under ASD. This is the adoption of a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the San Francisco Bay Trail at Doolittle Drive, and approval of the project at Martin Luther King Jr. Shoreline. Hello again, Christina.
Hello again, members of the board. Thank you to Matt and Chris for the last item, and to the board for your support of that item. And Director Corbett, you mentioned you were jealous that was in Director Waspy's ward, so we have one for you. This is Doolittle Drive at the Martin Luther King Regional Shoreline. This project is meets a long-term goal of the district to provide safe access along this corridor within MLK Regional Shoreline, and to be able to provide some expanded park access to this area in the East Oakland community, which is an underserved community. It encloses a gap in the Bay Trail network and connects two parts of the park. I think the board is aware that this is an area that has several constraints. There's just not much room to work there between the water and the road. And staff has looked at several options over the years for how to best achieve multiple goals. And the current proposed project is a result of several years of stakeholder engagement with many interested parties. And staff recommends this proposed project as the one that will best minimize impacts to the Bay and to the wildlife that rely on the Bay. This project is another example of an important partnership with Caltrans as we work within their right-of-way. They've been very cooperative. And this project, this item before you today, is the CEQA piece of this project. So we have a mitigated negative declaration for your consideration. It's an important milestone in the project, and we do need to complete CEQA review to help us be competitive for additional grants to complete this project. So again, it's a shared effort with planning, deco, and stewardship. And the item today will be presented by Brian Holt, our Chief of Planning.
Thank you very much, AGM Kelchner. Hello, Brian.
Hello, good afternoon, President Corbett, members of the board. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to share my screen here. Thank you, Christina, for that, that introduction. Let's go from the beginning. All right. So as Christina mentioned, we're here today with the Doolittle Drive Bay Trail Gap and Improvements Project. This is the item before you is the adoption of a mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program and approval of the project. So what you can see here is essentially the project area and existing conditions. So this is within Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. And you can see the constraint corridor here with Doolittle Drive, the bay, and the area in between. As Christina had mentioned, staff has looked for years at a number of different options, previously looking at potentially a causeway that would go into the bay. And it's really a result of a lot of stakeholder input that we have moved forward with this project that we have today that really works within the existing Caltrans right away. So again, here's the project location within Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. This segment of the project would go from Swan Way to about the shoreline center at MLK Regional Shoreline along Doolittle Drive, which is a state highway. So we keep mentioning Caltrans and working within there right away. So, so that partnership's important. And what you can see, what really effectively the project does is by closing this gap provides access from the Arrowhead Marsh area and the other areas on the east side of the bay to the areas of Martin Luther King Jr. that's on the west side of the bay. So really expanding park access and making the connection safely between two existing areas of the park. So those are the objectives: provide safe bicycle pedestrian access within MLK Jr. Regional Shoreline, close a gap in the Bay Trail, replace an existing boat launch. Boat launch here is out of service, so so this boat launch would be replaced. And you can see the trail actually dead ends right at the boat ramps there, so the trail would be realigned for more safe access there. Provide shoreline protection, and then looking towards addressing any of the project impacts through wetland mitigation elsewhere within regional shoreline. It's important to note that that this project is a priority project of the City of Oakland as well. In 2019, the City of Oakland adopted their bike plan and identified the Doolittle Drive segment as a vision priority project, a priority corridor for providing connectivity to the shoreline. And I would venture to guess that this is one of the more significant bike projects to move forward in implementation of that bike plan since its adoption in 2019. And of course, this is also a goal of the Association of Bay Area Governments, the Bay Trail Project. This is a gap as shown here on the Bay Trail maps in the Bay Trail network. And our master plan provides some guidance for us to cooperate and work with other agencies and jurisdictions to complete these multi-jurisdictional efforts to complete these regional. We did kind of take a look at, we wanted to take a look at this project and how it relates to social equity and disadvantaged communities. That's on all of our minds right now during this situation. Park access is so important, and the COVID-19 has really exposed a lot of the inequities to park access. So, so we took a look at this project and sort of how it fit in there. We actually put together a series of maps, just looking at median income and demographics and other things, just including this as a representative example. This is identified as a disadvantaged community under SB 535. And the Cal EnviroScreen score really shows this area as having being amongst the highest percentile of disadvantaged communities. So, so an important project again to expand park access to the communities that need it most. So going over just some of the details of the project here, and I know Lisa Gorgian is waiting in the wings should there be any more specific design questions, but I will certainly do my best to walk through here. So as Swan Way and going to the, it would be to the north, you can see the project largely within the right-of-way as we go past the fishing pier, providing a bike pull out here. There's some area here where the right-of-way narrows and there would be some bay fill that would be necessary. That is the area where we would mitigate that through a restoration project at the new marsh, which is elsewhere within Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. And then coming through and continuing along the right-of-way, removing an existing boat ramp there. And then continuing to the north, as we continue along the right-of-way and connect into the existing green space at Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline and the Shoreline Center, providing some parking lot improvements, replacing the boat launch that's within that site, and making the trail improvements there. So you can see a quick rendering here of what the project will look like. This is on the left, the existing conditions here. And then on the right, the proposed. So again, an important safety improvement project, park access project, and really working closely within that Caltrans right away, and a lot of appreciation to Caltrans for them working with us to be able to utilize that right away to minimize the impacts and provide for this. So again, the item before you today is adoption of the mitigated negative declaration pursuant to CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. And we did prepare an M&D. Public review was from April 13th to May 12th. I will say, we've come to the board relatively soon after closure of that public review period. And that is really because we do have consideration of a grant going before the Wildlife Conservation Board tomorrow. So it was really important for us to continue to move this, and the way the timing worked out here. We did receive six comments. We provided responses to those comments. That's not necessarily required under a mitigated negative declaration, but we did provide those responses and are committed to working together with those who expressed any concerns as we move into the design and permitting process to make sure that we're addressing any concerns. And all impacts were mitigated to a less than significant level. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Again, the recommendation here is to adopt the initial study mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Doolittle Drive segment of the San Francisco Bay Trail at Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline, and to approve the project. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, Lisa Gorgian and Matt Grawl, our Chief of Stewardship, are both available to provide other details.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that thorough report and bringing forward the mitigated negative declaration, the responses, the letters, and then the responses. Those are all in our packets for review. I'm sure you have all had an opportunity to review them, and this is a project that we have seen before us previously. Appreciate all the efforts to allow for more access to our parks, especially in underserved areas. And I am very interested, of course, in continuing to follow that work that will allow even additional ways for people from the East Oakland neighborhoods to access this particular area. This is one little piece of that. And also, of course, it's a really important addition to the Bay Trail, the Gap in the Bay Trail. So thank you for all of your hard work in bringing this before us. I don't have any additional questions, but I will ask if any other board members do. Director Lane.
Not questions, but I am really pleased to see this project go. It's an exciting one, and I think being able to work with Caltrans in that right of way is a really great idea. We did have some considerations of like a cantilevered trail, which would have been unbelievably expensive and had, you know, its own problems. So I want to congratulate everybody for working on this and filling in a gap. I'm glad to see that it was recognized by Oakland, and I don't know if Oakland has some funds they would like to put into it or not.
I'll just provide a quick response. We haven't, certainly we can I can pass that along to Lisa and others as we work towards the funding package here.
And this is a continuing process where we will be seeking additional opportunities for funding, right?
Correct. As I mentioned, we do have a grant being considered by the Wildlife Conservation Board tomorrow. And with completion of the CEQA, we can finalize the design and continue to build that funding package. And there is money available that's been previously appropriated by the board within a project budget as well.
Do we know, Brian, how much the grant that you're seeking tomorrow, what that amounts to?
$750,000.
Okay, thank you very much. And the original funding for this project, the much more expanded project, did we have additional funding in the budget, or were we planning towards that project too? Do you know what I mean? Was there money set aside for the grander scaled project, or were we raising money?
I'm going to ask Lisa to maybe speak to that, or maybe the general manager can. My recollection of the history was there was money that was allocated for the more expensive project. When Lisa and others started taking a look at that, they started looking towards this project that worked more within the right of way, limited some of those costs. Not to say that this is by any way an inexpensive project, but it was the existing funding that was placed towards that previously considered project is going towards this.
So that funding stayed in that project.
Correct.
To go somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Director Rosario.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. This sounds like a great project. I just have I was trying to go through my notes, but I can't find it, of course. I'd read that there was some argument that the mitigation at, we were going to use New Marsh as mitigation, that there's a possibility that wasn't suitable. Can you explain what that dispute is about?
I'll let Matt respond to that.
I see AGM Kelchner with her hand up too.
Okay.
And I'll defer to Matt on the details, but just to give a more general response, Director Rosario, are you referring to the comment letters we received?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Audubon and the regional board had some questions about our mitigation, and they just want more detail about the mitigation. And we are not at that stage in the process yet, because we will be applying for permits to the regional board. And through that permit application process, we will get input from the regional board about what they want to see. Okay. And we will be, so the plan is to restore as much marsh as we can, and that's our first preference for mitigation. And if for some reason that isn't feasible, we've kept in the flexibility to be able to purchase credits from a mitigation bank. But our full expectation and intention is to be able to do marsh restoration in order to meet our mitigation requirements. Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's accurate. I mean, and we've looked at the area. All I can say is we looked at the area, and there's some upland areas on the edges of the new marsh that we can basically pull back and create more marsh in that area, which will actually enhance the habitat in those areas, because we already have some shorebird islands that are near those upland areas. So this will actually help create more of a buffer between those islands and the area around it. So there's a lot of opportunity at this site. And these uplands we're talking about are uplands that are mostly weedy species now, and they're not uplands that are used by shorebirds for refugia. So we'll be kind of modifying those to create better habitat in that area. And
okay.
The general manager wants to add something.
I was waiting for the president of the board, but
Oh, I can't see, so
okay.
I will recognize you. I can
Thank
hear
you very much. I didn't want to interrupt.
It's okay.
I just, this project is very competitive for California transportation funding. And one of the benefits of partnering with Caltrans is that they are a partner here. So a good chance that there may be some funding for this. Also, you have Actia in Alameda County who made a major the board will recall in developing support from the bicycle pedestrian community made a major effort to include funding for trails within the Measure B that passed by the voters. And so we would expect there is transportation funding. This has got such a nexus between the park use and the transportation use, I think will be very competitive.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it was a great idea to get these, solicit these comments from the agencies at the beginning, because it gives us a better chance for a more successful program. So thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Any additional questions or comments? If not, if the board will indulge me, I would like to make the motion on this resolution. Would someone like to make a second? Director Rosario? All right, let's call the roll. All those in favor of the resolution to adopt the initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the San Francisco Bay Trail at Doolittle Drive and approval of the project at Martin Luther King Shoreline, please state aye. Director Wieskamp?
Aye.
Director Lane?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Waspy?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
And Director Corbett, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you all very much.
Thank
I
you.
know. Thank you, and thank you, staff. Thank you very much. We have one more item under ASD, but since we're into our second hour now, a little bit over a second hour into the meeting, we're going to take a quick stretch break for 15 minutes. So if you would like to turn off your videos and mutes for 15 minutes, we're still live with the public listening in. But if you want to turn off your mics and your cameras for a minute so you can get up and stretch, we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break. Thank you all. Please be back in less than 15 minutes. Thank you.
Director Wieskamp, we're going to turn off your video so you can deal with it. Well, good, it's all coming out. Oh, the charcoal. See my text. Where's your phone? It's
Can I have a time check? Are we at 15 minutes? Are we at 15 minutes, Madam Clerk?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Everybody, board members, are we all here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. All right. Again, thank you to the public. Sorry for the quick interruption. We'll go back on agenda. I just wanted to, are we all here? Yes.
Director Lane.
Oh, Director Lane. Okay, we'll wait a moment. Hello, everyone. I think we're all here. There you are. Everybody is here. Thank you all very much. We're reconvening the meeting. I did want to just make a quick mention that our meeting is going over a little longer than was planned this afternoon. And we do have one more item under ASD, but I am going to ask the general manager, would it be okay for us to put over the report under item 4 to the next meeting?
Of course, make sure I'm on, yes. Of course, that would be okay. I have mentioned it to Assistant General Manager and Government Affairs people, so we should be fine. We can redo that. And I would bet by the time we get to the next board meeting, there'll be new information. I can guarantee it. Yeah.
We apologize for that inconvenience, but we thank you all for understanding, and I know that it'll be even a better report at the next meeting. So thank you very much, and again, apologies for the inconvenience. I know you put a lot of work into the report, so but we will be very interested in hearing it at the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. General Manager.
Okay,
all right.
So we have a question about that. Do people have something else that's lined up? It's only Q4.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're back to ASD, and we're on item D, authorization to award a construction contract with Gray Tech, approve a construction contingency and amend a contract with Adrian Wong Associates to develop Brickyard Cove and McLaughlin East Shore State Park Regional Shoreline. Another really amazing, beautiful project coming out of ASD. And I'm assuming it'll be introduced by AGM Councilor or General Manager Doyle.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll introduce this very briefly. This is a very significant action today. Again, reminding everyone, this is a state park that we operate on behalf of the state of California. We do not receive any operating funds, so it's coming out of the district's general fund to fund this and our Measure FF. We received in the last negotiation with the state of California and I think Director Corbett will remember that General Jackson was the director of retired Marine, was the director of state parks, and our operating agreement had expired, and we renegotiated that agreement, and I was able to get a very positive decision out of that director at his level with the help of Senator Hancock at the time. And as part of that operating agreement, we got a one-time $5 million grant from the state of California. That grant is critical to this development. We spent some of that, which Ren Bates will go into, on the initial grading. If you will remember, there was a very active mountain there of dirt farming, kind of like we have now at Dumbarton, which was objected to by many. So we retired that contract and concession and moved forward on the grading of phase 1A for the Brickyard. And that plan was approved. It includes a small storage facility, a corporation yard to be built in the future, not funded as part of this project. So we don't have to transfer equipment all the way from Richmond and Miller Knox to the site on the freeway. Much more efficient for the park staff, and it puts eyes on the ground at the park. And I think that's very important for security and safety. We have had some incidents, crime incidents along the East Shore. It's a very busy freeway, and we have had some past issues there. So we believe that in the future, we need to have some kind of a very small footprint for an office and vehicle storage and equipment for maintaining that 9 miles of urban shoreline. This is a 9-mile long strip of state parks. That project now is ready to move forward. Ren Bates will make that presentation, but we are still looking to spend that money from the state, and that goes all the way back again to Director Jackson at the time. And it's very important to encumber and spend these funds and complete the rest of that phase. So I will now turn it over to Ren Bates, and I don't know if Lisa, I think there's Ren, and he can give us. I will say Ren's been the beginning to end of this project and hasn't ended yet, but Ren is the very first person that worked on East Shore.
Thank you, General Manager. Ren Bates. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I'm Ren Bates, Capital Program Manager. It's my pleasure to make this presentation. I'm going to share my screen now, so bear with me while I do that, please. That works for me. Does that work for everyone else?
Yes, very nice.
Great. So this, as stated by President Corbett, this recommendation seeks to authorize a construction contract to Grade Tech and amend our existing contract with Adrian Wong Associates, who is the designer and developer of the construction documents for this phase 1 project for the Brickyard Cove project. Here is the East Shore State Park. This project site is within McLaughlin East Shore. This image almost covers all 9 miles that the General Manager mentioned. It shows basically, it goes from the Emeryville Crescent to Richmond, and it is a well-used Bay Trail section. Our project site is located at University Avenue and Frontage Road in Berkeley, highlighted here by this large red star, and it's this area here. This is a nice aerial image that shows sort of East Shore State Park, McLaughlin East Shore State Park, forgive me, from the Brickyard site north. So we have our Brickyard site, which the project site is here where my cursor is outlining. For reference to those that might know, the Sea Breeze is a concession that's right here at the corner. It's very popular. So in 2001, the General Park Plan was adopted, and it identified park improvements for this site. And as the General Manager mentioned, in 2013, East Bay Parks entered into a 30-year agreement with state parks to operate, maintain, and manage the capital projects for McLaughlin East Shore. And at that point was when we received the $5 million as well. At that same time, in 2013 and 14, the district worked on developing this concept plan for the entire site. It entailed phasing, so you'll see that there's several phases, phase 1, phase 2, and future. In 2016, based on the approval of this plan from the district, our external stakeholders being the city, state parks, we did a large cleanup of the site. There was a lot of construction debris on the surface. It was rutteral vegetation, and as the General Manager mentioned, a huge dirt pile was remnant there. It blocked views from, this is a pedestrian bridge over 80, eastbound 80, westbound 80, I guess, depending on which way you're going. Views were blocked here. You could not see the bay. So the grading plan opened up views to the bay, opened up the site, and was cleaned up. That project was completed in 2017. And in the subsequent years, we've hired a consultant to finish construction documents for the phase 1 improvements and received state park approval. The approval of this contract will construct phase 1 improvements. And this is a blow up of that area. So just for reference, we're talking about this internal area here. And here's kind of more specifically what our phase 1 improvements will be. So what we will have is a parking area, which is much more formalized than what is existing there now. If you've been to the site, there's an existing fence here. All of our improvements are going to be beyond that fence so that we can phase this. But back to the improvements at hand are an entry plaza with restrooms, signage, drinking fountain, bike parking and seating, picnic sites. We'll bring in utilities, and this is going to be one of the major costs of this site is we're bringing in potable water, fire water, electrical and sewer connections. And these will be brought in for this small existing restroom building, but we will also, they're brought in to provide for that future improvements that the general manager mentioned. We will also do some additional more native planting out there and provide some irrigation to help establish those plants. We're minimizing trees out on the site to keep the views open. And then finally of note, we're going for bay friendly certification on this site to show how low water use native plants can be utilized in and be an interpretive value for park users. We developed bid construction documents and we went out to bid earlier this year prior to the COVID situation we are in. We then extended our bidding and we actually had an online opening for this as well. As we did that from Acosker. It's a new way that we're learning how to operate in the current situation. We got 4 bids. Our engineer's estimate was $2.5 million. And as you can see, 3 of our bids came in lower than that. So we're pleased about that. Our low bid was Grade Tech, who was responsive and responsible. And that's who we are recommending to have you award contract to. Here's our funding. The money shown here has all been provided by the state with the exception of $5,000, which was provided by Stop Waste for our Bay Friendly certification. As the general manager mentioned, encumbrances to date included the classification of the soil dirt pile before we moved it around and cleaned up the site. We wanted to ensure that it was safe for use. We found a small bit of arsenic, so that was cleaned up and it has been removed. And we also did some projects to clean up the beach at Brickyard Cove, smaller contracts. It was full of creosoted logs and pampas grass that was there and was spreading. So we had all of that removed so that the beach at Brickyard Cove was cleaned up. We will spend the $2 million for the construction contract. This action also seeks to amend the contract with AWA, which is for construction administration. So in other words, that will be the scope of services for that will be to respond to requests for information or submittals and just provide design services during construction. We also will have permit fees, we'll have utility fees, as I mentioned, which will be significant cost for connecting the East Bay Mud and PG&E. We will have to connect to the City of Berkeley sanitary sewer, so we'll have to pay a fee for that as well. Again, here's the recommendation. Before you, we're seeking to award a construction contract with Grade Tech and to amend a contract with Adrian Wong Associates for construction administration services to complete phase 1 improvements at the Brickyard Cove. I'm happy to take any questions at this time, and I will escape out of stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Ren. What beautiful views, and that spot. I haven't been here as long as some of the rest of you, but I can see how that spot has come along over the years. It's looking better and better. So any questions or comments from any board members? Yes, Director Eccles and then Director Lane.
Yeah, hi. I don't have any questions because Ren and his team have already kindly answered my questions, but I did just want to say how excited I am about this project, you know, to take an area that's littered with construction debris and a giant dirt pile and turn it into a beautiful part of McLaughlin East Shore Park is just, it's great. So what's not to love? And especially because the state of California is paying for the work. So that's wonderful. And this is particularly near and dear to my heart because I went to grade school right across the freeway from this area. And of course, we didn't have the pedestrian bridge to cross University Avenue at that point. But I'm glad that the folks who are living there in West Berkeley will be able to have access to this park. And really just want to thank the team, Ren and Lisa Gorgian, and of course, AGM Kelchner and everyone else who's been involved in this project. Great work.
Thank you very much, Director Eccles and Director Lane.
Yeah. Whoops.
You're on.
I can only second Elizabeth on that. It's very exciting to see us move to this point in phase one. And so when phase one is completed, we will open phase one, right? Okay, we're not waiting until phase two. Good. Okay.
Oh, I think we should wait. Just kidding. Director Waspy, do you have your hand?
I just want to say congratulations, Ren and staff. I think you're the luckiest guy in the district. This is a great project. I've followed it, and a couple of board members and I have toured it before, during, and hopefully we'll get to enjoy it after. It's a beautiful part of the bay. It's going to be, and so accessible to so many people. I'm incredibly happy for you and us. My question is, and I'm very happy about the bay-friendly landscape, bay-friendly gardening certification, landscaping certification. And I'm hoping along the way, and it's probably a requirement of Stop Waste, that will you have, I know you mentioned signage, will there be interpretive signage interpreting the great water-saving, wildlife enhancing values of bay-friendly landscaping?
Yes, we have been working with INR. We're proposing 3 interpretive panels out there, and one of those will be regarding the bay-friendly certification and how that applies and how it's utilized, so that we can offer that to park users as a way to sort of show that this is a good thing for the bay and that it actually can be a beautiful amenity.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Got Director Rosario.
Great project. Congratulations. My question is there any possibility of me bringing in utilities? Is there an opportunity to bring in non-potable water for irrigation?
So the distribution lines for recirculated or secondary water from East Bay mud don't come this far to the north along the 80 corridor. So there's not distribution. The water facility is relatively close right there, further down by the maze, but the distribution lines don't come as far up as at this point to tie into that.
Okay. Got to work on East Bay mud. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? All right, great job, Ren and everybody else. Director Eccles, would you by any chance like to make a motion? I think that's your district, right?
Yeah, yes. Yes, I would like to move adoption of the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Who would like to second that? Director Lane. All right, we have a motion and a second, and I will call the roll for adoption of that resolution to award the contract to Grade Tech and to move forward with our work at Brickyard Cove and McLaughlin East Shore State Park Regional Shoreline. And I just want to add a big thank you to Senator Lonnie Hancock. So we should also remember her as we make this motion today. So with that, all those in favor, please state aye as I call your name. Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Coffey.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett is an aye, so that's a unanimous adoption of that resolution. Thank you all very much. Great, great projects. ASD, you make us proud. Thank you. So with that, the next item was to be the report, which we will put over to the next meeting and be very interested in that. And again, thank you very much for your consideration. Those of you who put the report together today, our apologies. And Mr. General Manager, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this point before we move to announcements from closed session?
Madam President, you missed the board and staff reports. It may not be on your script.
Didn't I?
Okay.
Board and staff reports, actions taken by other jurisdictions. GM Doyle.
Very briefly.
I was kind of on the right track. I knew he was next. Didn't know.
There are just two comments on the actions by other jurisdictions, and unless there's questions, I have no further report.
Questions, comments, anybody? Director Waspy.
Well, I don't have a question on those actions taken by other jurisdictions, but I was just found out yesterday, and I'm interested if we were aware that the city of Fremont is going to take up the issue tonight, City Council, of whether or not to extend the parking restrictions in the Vineyard Heights or whatever that area is adjacent to Stanford Avenue. I'm told that they're going to take that up and extend it for a number of years. Well, I won't comment, but I'm wondering if we were let know about that in the spirit of collaboration.
Yes, we were, Director Waspy, and the comments from Kelly under public comments were correct. They are considering the extension of the permit parking. We have made it clear that we will no longer patrol those areas with our police, and that they need to bear not just the income from the permits, but they need to hire the staff to enforce that. And so that's where we left it, and anything else will be whatever happens with the future of the operating agreement with the city.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. General Manager, anything else before we go to announcements from closed session?
No.
General Counsel, any announcements from closed session?
For President Corbett, there are no announcements from closed session.
Thank you very much. So we now are on the board. We're on board comments. Let's see, anybody want to volunteer to start it off? Anybody? Anne is smiling. Would you like to start?
I'll be glad to lead off. May 6th, I had my interview with the CALEA representative about the recertification accreditation for our police department. Really great conversation, and maybe I enjoyed it because she was from Texas, and I found out how glad I am to be here and not in that humid spot. There were several of our wonderful Zoom meetings, the executive committee meeting, another type of meeting with LARPD, the Alameda County Special District Association, and then we had a LAFCO meeting, and I did the PAC meeting last night. I'd like to comment that I keep talking to my regular conversations with supervisors throughout Ward 5, and they helped me put together with some photographs and comments my presentation to the PAC last night. Let me tell you, they are so thrilled when they get new equipment. They all thank me for it, and I told them, well, we're glad to have it out there, and they're using it. The exciting item, and I'm sure you've all heard about it, but we had a wonderful picture of one of the eagles that's now the pair at Ardenwood, and there is every hope that a fledgling might be visible and out and about around July 4th. And wouldn't that be exciting? And with that, I thank you for another collegial meeting with Zoom.
We're all getting really good at this, huh, Anne?
I will only say tolerable. How's that?
Thank you very much, Director Wieskamp. Director Waspy?
Thank you. So, each Wednesday, the past few Wednesdays and every Wednesday, I participate in the the task force committee meeting. I think, as we've talked about a number of times, they're incredibly productive, and I think it's just a beautiful system, and I hope we continue for a while. I hope not on dealing with this crisis, but I think we'll work our way through this, and I think it's a great asset to the district, and everybody's learning a lot from it. On the 7th, I participated with members of the legislative committee on a phone conference with Congressman Eric Swalwell. We emphasized to him what an essential service the Park District was, and of course he knew that and was very much aware of that. We also presented him with some of the asks that we had of some of the expenditures we've made so far in efforts to keep people safe and healthy, yet still having access to parks. And he seemed very receptive to helping us out. On the 13th, I attended the Alameda County Special Districts Association meeting. I think it was a historical's first Zoom meeting of that organization also. And also on the 13th, I met with Christina, Chris Barton, Lisa, and Matt Grawl of ASD. And I know you're all benefiting from it. My fellow board members are all benefiting from the fact that if you have a topic in your ward, that they'll talk to you about it and give you a heads up on what's going on. And I sure appreciated it. We talked about Hayward Marsh and answered a number of questions. So I thank them for that. I also attended the ad hoc succession planning meeting for the GM on yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I've been hiking in the parks. Things are getting better. Staffs are feeling a little more comfortable in this scary era that we're living through. And I want to thank staff for all the great work they've done. They've done an incredible job of stepping up and really in some of these trying times, working this out and doing a betterment for our community. Next week, I have the opportunity to go to the California Association of Recreation Park Districts Conference. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Couple hours of Zoom with you guys is a lot of fun, but I don't know about how 2 days are going to be on a Zoom conference for the carpet. But I do have the opportunity and the great good fortune the Regional Park District will achieve 3 awards next week, and I will have the opportunity and with the General Manager of the Year award. So I'm very happy about that. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Waspy. Can I ask a quick question? If we want to zoom in on the award ceremonies, will you let us know how to do so?
You know what? I bet, yeah, Sharon, I think, signed us all up. I think we're signed up as a group, and there's all probably have to stick through it through the bitter end. I bet you can come and go whenever you want. And we can all probably even pinpoint when Robert and some of our other people get their awards. If that's, there are a couple of topics of interest that I think, and sharing of how other agencies are dealing with this COVID crisis might be interesting. But Sharon Clay does everything. And I think she's signed us up, if I'm not mistaken.
We will make sure that is, we will do the research and get back to you on how you can get into the in the awards.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. I see Mattingly there. Sounds like she's going to help us too.
May I speak? Yes, Director Corbett. Monique Salas has all the information available and plans to sign you all up as a group if you would all like to be signed up as a group. So let Yolanda know, or Sharon or Monique, and you will be signed up.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, everybody, let the appropriate people know. Okay, thank you very much. All right, Director Rosario.
Okay. Thank you. And I think I forgot to mention last time thanks to Lisa Gorgian and Ren Bates and Matt for our meeting about McCosker on the 1st of May. a great benefit to the board members, and I hope that continues. So on the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th, I attended the COVID task force meetings. I think it's a great collaborative exercise, and I think it's been very successful. On the 7th, I attended the executive board meeting, and on 5/8 and 5/15, I attended the Asian Pacific American caucus of the California Cities League of Cities, and specifically those seminars have been on Asian discrimination during this pandemic, and the stories are heartbreaking and horrific, and it's just a call for all of us to stand up to hate wherever it shows up. But it's a great series, and I applaud the League of Cities and the caucus for putting these on. And then on 5/9, Deputy General Manager Ana Alvarez and I cleaned the restrooms at Skyline Gate. I hope to do some more. And then on 5/14 and 5/21, I attended the park guidance webinars. Excellent programs. And then on 5/16, I attended the Oakland Fire Safe Council meeting, where they're debating about or considering putting a parcel tax for a wildfire district in Oakland. And then on 5/18, I had a telephone meeting with Robin Freeman from San Leandro Creek Alliance, and he has a draft of draft protocols for our possible future interaction in the extension of San Leandro Creek Trail to 98th. So I need to get that to Directors Corbett and Jim O'Connor to take a look at. And then we had our test meeting yesterday. That was great. And then on 5/18 last night, I attended the Oakland DD Coalition meeting, and they're making some progress with the Bay Trail connections, and they're looking to us to negotiate with the Yacht Club. Is it the Yacht Club or the Bay Harbor? I can't remember which one now. And then also I need to hook up Kristen Hathaway from the City of Oakland with grants to see if they might be eligible for a Measure W Urban Creek grant. And then we are here today. So busy month. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rosario. Director Coffey.
Thank you. I too attended the UCSF sponsored seminars on guidance for parks as essential services on May 7 and May 14. As I mentioned earlier, it was very helpful to have the actual experts on the COVID-19 as a public health crisis. All those folks with MDs and PhDs telling us how to safely operate the parks for our users and our employees. On the 13th, I attended the Contra Costa Watershed Forum sponsored by the county flood control folks. And they featured a discussion that day on the North Richmond Living Shoreline project of the West Contra Costa Sanitary District, in which we are involved. And Lisa Baldinger presented on the district's community outreach. I too was looking forward to the presentation on that today, but I really want to commend the folks that have been involved in the community outreach program, Carol Johnson and her team. It's been fantastic. You just out in the streets hear about it, and it's been particularly robust on social media and very, very popular. In particular, the naturalist programs that are our folks are putting on online and on Facebook with various programs designed mostly for kids. Those are proving very popular. On the 16th, I attended a forum sponsored by Supervisor Burgess on the Marsh Creek Morgan Territory fire season. And our park district was well represented by Chief Tiley and Park Supervisor Chris Lyle during the forum. It proved very educational for me to hear the concerns of that community. On the 18th, I attended the Contra Costa Special Districts Association meeting by Zoom, and the featured speaker was Supervisor Candace Anderson. Other than that, all the 2 past weekends I've spent doing rounds at parks within Ward 7. Spent some time this weekend both in Point Pinole and Lone Tree, the small park we operate up in Rodeo, which has been very well maintained. I was pleased to see. That covers my report, President Corbett.
Thank you very much, Director Coffey. Director Eccles?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Well, like some of the other board members, I also want to thank the AGM, Christina Kelchner and her team for doing the previews that they do when they're bringing all these amazing projects to the board. And so I spent some time with Christina, Lisa Gorgian, and Ren Bates last Thursday to hear a preview on the Brickyard that we just talked about today in the board meeting. And so appreciate that. Also with fire season upon us, I was really pleased to have time with Fire Chief Tiley as well as Assistant Fire Chief Gallup to get a briefing on what the district is doing in terms of fire prevention and mitigation and fuels management. And so I met with them on the 18th and also met with them along with Carol Johnson and Eric Feeler this morning to get their perspectives as well. And so that was very helpful. Appreciate them taking the time. In addition, I represented the East Bay Regional Park District at the 10th annual Albany Film Fest on Saturday, both at the children's matinee and at the evening gala. Pretty hard to share champagne over Zoom video, but you know, we did our best. But I did want to say seriously, especially the children's matinee, which was movies that or films that were made by youth for youth. I found it very uplifting, and you know, particularly during this pandemic, people were very creative about the films that they did, and some of them did deal with the pandemic. And so I found it very uplifting and inspiring, and just further gives me hope for our future.
Very nice. Thank you very much. So I guess that is Director Lane with us?
IS is working to get her back on. Her computer froze. So we are working on that right now.
Okay, I will go ahead then. I think in listening to all of you and looking at my own calendar, I think we're doing even more meetings than we ever did before. So thanks to Zoom, we can be everywhere all the time. And less commuting, but lots of meetings. So EOC has been meeting on the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and just recently changed to the Monday, Thursday format. So I want to let you all know that I've been in the EOC meetings at 2 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the last week, I believe, is when we started the Monday, Thursday format. And so on the 7th, I participated in the executive committee meeting and also a planning meeting for a virtual walk and talk, which there was a walk and talk planned with Assemblymember Bonta, and we're moving it to a virtual platform, so that we were planning for that on the 7th. On the 13th, I attended the Alameda County Special Districts meeting in the morning as well, and had an opportunity to give welcome on behalf of the Park District and commiserate with fellow special district folks about how we missed sharing muffins for breakfast. And that evening, I spoke at the Alameda County Mayor's Conference and brought up the idea, thanked the two mayors who are doing slow streets in Alameda and Oakland, and asked if mayors of other communities might be interested in partnering with the Park District to provide more slow streets and places for people to recreate in their neighborhoods. And that was very well received. And in fact, several mayors mentioned how they have been spending time on our trails. So that's really good to know. On the 14th, in the morning, I attended and spoke at Chief Chiriaburo, who's also AGM of Public Safety, his virtual staff meeting that he holds on a regular basis, to specifically bring greetings from the Board of Directors and a huge thank you from us for the great work that all of our wonderful workers, our employees in public safety, the great job they're doing. So I brought the greetings and thanked them on behalf of the board. There's another EOC meeting that day, and also an additional meeting for video planning with government affairs for that walk and talk I mentioned. On the 15th, actually participated in filming some video out at Crown Beach and Crab Cove in order to get ready for the walk and talk with James Frank, the supervising naturalist out there. And any of you have met him, he's another one of our wonderful employees. We had a great time on a very beautiful day at the beach. On the 17th, I participated in a planning discussion about among some of our administrative staff to get ready to Zoom live on Tuesday. We were working on that on the 17th. On the 18th, yesterday, I participated in a briefing with ASD. That was one Zoom meeting, an EOC Zoom meeting, second Zoom meeting, the ad hoc GM transition meeting, third meeting, and there's a fourth meeting here, but I don't remember. Oh yes, we had a practice meeting, practice Zooming. So that was my all-time record for the Park District, 4 Zoom meetings in one day. And then of course, we have today's meeting. So I've been having fun Zooming with all the rest of you. And thank you for all of the board members who have also been working so hard during these extraordinary times and stepping up and playing a really important role, being calm and being reassuring and being supportive of all of our staff. It's a crazy time to be governing as well, but I just want to say I'm very proud of all of you and all of the extra work that you're putting in to ensure that we all work together as a team with all of our employees, all of our staff, all of our administrators to continue to provide the amazing services of the East Bay Regional Park District. So thank you. And I see Beverly Lane, Director Lane is with us. Would you like to talk about your meetings?
Sure. I don't know what happened there, but I froze and disappeared and couldn't get back.
But you're here now.
I finally figured it out. Anyway, it has been an interesting couple of weeks. I don't think I can come anywhere close to the number of meetings you just described. My gosh, Ellen, I'm glad you're.
I'm tired.
I'm glad you're staying really busy. I've been getting out into some of the parks, hiking Las Trampas, Sycamore Valley, went down Iron Horse Trail only to see them cleaning up the trail and mowing with what looked like a new machine. And it really worked very well. At Morgan Territory, we've been really very busy, and I fielded one complaint suggestion there. And at Round Valley, which is a park that does not allow dogs because of kit fox. We've been having problems with people bringing dogs and letting them run loose. And so staff was very pleased that Public Safety brought one of their electronic signs that indicates what people need to be doing or not at that staging area. So the supervisor was happy about that. In terms of meetings, I've been sitting in on some meetings. I sat in on executive, and since I couldn't be part of the Zoom, I was one of the YouTube observers, and it was kind of an interesting experience, I have to say. So people are looking at you, but not at me at that point. I did Zoom with our Contra Costa Mayor's Conference and talked to them also about helping out, opening some streets just to pedestrians. And I didn't get a whole lot of enthusiastic responses the way it sounded like you did, Ellen, but I did carry the message and also invited them to send some names on Concord Hills if they were interested in doing that. We had a meeting with LARPD, and I do want to say I'm really pleased with the plan to open Point Isabel June 1st, because I feel like the suggestions we've received from people are really very reasonable in their efforts, and I'm glad that we have thought it out and are doing that, as well as Del Valle. I'm interested if somebody would get back to me about what our plans are for how we're dealing with picnic tables, because it's beginning to be fabulous picnic weather, and I think we need to have some kind of a plan for that. And I'm also interested, since the Roddies have now moved, in knowing what is happening there with the house and the core part of that ranch. So that's what I've been doing, and thank you all for doing everything you have and responding to people's concerns. I think we've been an agency that's provided so much in this time, and we work to be nuanced in keeping everybody safe. So I think everybody should be proud of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very kind words. Thank you, Beverly. And if there's nothing else from anyone else, let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 4:23. Thank you all very much. Our first all Zoom meeting was very successful. I see some smiling faces and some relief. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ellen. You've done a great.
Thank you, Anne. We're all getting good at this. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.